What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. So this is kind of the only angle I have here where the sun's not in my eyes. I'm about to get started working on this Equinox. I think this is a 2010 Equinox. These things had all kinds of problems, a couple of which we're going to look at. One of them we might do at a later date, but right now I think it has a restricted brake hose. And I'm going to tell you guys how to know a stuck caliper from a restricted brake hose. Pretty easy trick. So if you guys just hang in there, I'll show you. But basically, when you're driving the car, the brake pedal is really firm, like you're fighting something that is seized, like a stuck caliper. Brake pedal is really firm, you're pushing, and when you're pushing and you let off, it feels as though the brake is still applied. So it feels like you're still stopping, and any gas input, it feels like you're towing a trailer. Like it is just like the car bogs down. It's like it's trying to pull through the brakes. So the brakes are still applied on this thing. Now in this vehicle, I happen to know that the front calipers have just been replaced. So first thing I suspected was a kinked brake hose, but I didn't see that. So what we're gonna do, and I know it's the front end because she mentioned that the front end was shaking. So when the front end is shaking, essentially what you have is, and I guess it could be the rear end too, and she said it's the front. You know, you never know, but you got to entertain every idea, of course. But she said the front end was shaking. So typically if the steering wheel shakes, front end is shaking, you have a brake pulsation. Usually that's when braking. Or you have a road force problem with your tire, but she said if she goes faster, it goes away. So basically, it seemed like she has a brake pulsation due to a stuck caliper. But I know the calipers have been changed, so that's why I'm suspecting a brake hose, but there is a way to tell. So I'll stop jibber-jabbering here, and I'm going to put a wheel chock and chock this thing. Go ahead and get the tires pulled off in the front, and we'll see which side it is. So hopefully I can demonstrate this principle a little better over here than on the other side. So I'm sticking this screwdriver in here, and you're prying on here. I don't really get much out of it, right? So then if I were to loosen this guy, look how easily I'm able to move the piston here. So I know it's not the piston, right? I know that it's actually the hose that's restricted. And once I open the bleeder screw, it makes an easier path for the fluid to flow out of here than up through this hose, which, you know, it shouldn't really make a difference. If you push on it, if the caliper is the thing that's frozen, essentially, you're not going to be able to push on it either way. So this guy is nice and free now. You can see, I mean, we're held up by the transmission, but this thing is spinning freely, uncompressed. Now, if I go hit the brake pedal in there, I push really hard on it. Basically it has a tough time pushing through the restriction in the line, but it does restrict the flow back to the master as well. So when you let off, it continues to apply, even though the piston's fine, and you may put new calipers on it for this, but it's the hose. So that's a good way to check. Compress the piston. If you don't get any compression, open the bleeder screw and see if you get any fluid coming out. If the fluid comes squirting out, you know your restriction is in the line and you're pushing all the fluid out of here instead of up through the line. I'm just reiterating so you understand, but yeah, that's the way this trick works, and it'll save you some money if you just have a bad hose, not a bad caliper. So it's good to check out, and you always want to do that test whenever you have something that's binding and you have trouble pushing the piston back in. You want to check the hose and check the caliper, see which one it is, and to get it fixed, because it's going to help longer brake life and a better brake feel and all that good stuff. Less warped rotors. So this thing's probably got a little bit of warpage going on, but we'll see how it is after we change the hose. We'll take it for a road test and we'll see just how bad. Hopefully it's not too bad. So changing these lines are pretty easy. I got you kind of zoomed in a little bit there. Zoom me out. So you get these new, they're like crush washers, but they're called I don't know, copper washers? I don't remember what they're called if they have a name, but you got your banjo bolt that goes through this piece, and if you can see, there is a little hole on the inside there, and that's where the brake fluid is actually coming out of, going through the hole in your banjo bolt, and that is what goes into the caliper. So, you know, not that complicated really. So we're just gonna set this guy up like this. So first thing I think I'm gonna do is crack this line loose up top. These guys snap in, so we're just gonna crack this line loose, and then we'll pull this clip out here after it's loose. And then, well, yeah, after it's loose, we will, and almost out, then we can pull this clip out, and it'll separate this line. And then the new line will slide up in here, and we'll put the clip in. Now, I'm gonna open up the hood and check on the fluid level in the master cylinder, because I just wanna make sure we're not gonna run out. As long as you don't run out of brake fluid during this procedure, which it'll be dripping, you'll be fine as far as bleeding. If you run out and the master runs dry and you leave it for a long time, then you probably might have some trouble bleeding it later. You may have to bench bleed the master or something annoying like that. So just try to do it in a timely fashion. I'm kind of going to focus on basically this thing, getting it all ready to go, and then I'll bust this guy off and then get this guy off, make this connection here, and then I'll make this connection, and I'll worry about all this other stuff. It's just so you know, we minimize the amount of time we have it open and dripping. So it's not as stressful as I make it sound. Just work quickly and efficiently. So have all your stuff ready, you know, your wrench that you're going to use for this. I'm going to try to see if I can find a flare wrench for this fitting up here, because they can be tight. I'm talking like that. They can be pretty tight. So I may spray it with a little bit of rust penetrant, WD-40, and work it back and forth. If all else fails, we can maybe use a little bit of heat. And sometimes the coating in here gets all bound up because these are coated brake lines. So we'll just give it a shot and we'll see if we can get it loose. Just don't go and bend this whole line here, because if it doesn't turn and you spin this thing and it starts bending the line, you're gonna have a problem. So you may have to bite down here to grab this. So yeah, it's like I said, I'm making it sound complicated, but it's not. But those are just potential issues you could run into. So let's get it going. Okay, so we're almost out with that. We'll use this line wrench here. Just something like that. Alright. So now I'm going to pull the cap off of the master. See, I topped off the master, and I've just been letting it gravity bleed. It's doing pretty well, honestly. Just chilling. So I'm going to see if I can worry about getting this bolt out now. This guy here is snapped off in there. Of course, you know, that's just lucky. If I got a pair of vice grips, I can get it. So I'll see if I can find some. So I got the other side done, and I'm over on this side. I went ahead and put a nut and bolt through here just because, you know, I busted it. So I had to make right on it. I ended up chiseling it out of the hole, and I ended up getting it out. So I didn't think I was gonna. It kind of came out sideways, might have boogered up the threads, and I don't know if I would have found another bolt like that anyway, so I just threw a smaller nut and bolt in there, and that'll be fine. So at least it's held on, and not by a zip tie. So, you know, if it was my vehicle, I'd probably zip tie it. But we got this other side is still dripping away. Nice little steady drip here, and I think we're pretty much ready to cap this thing off. I keep adding brake fluid. Ideally, you know, I'd have my sucker at work. I would suck it out. Probably sell a brake flush too with this, but you know, I'm putting a good amount of new fluid through her system, so she should be just fine. So after this, give it a nice little road test, make sure we fix the problem. Now I already can tell that the brake pedal, I don't even have to drive it. I know the brake pedal feels way better. I get in and I hit it, oh my god. I can push it, I can actually push it down now. So, I didn't show it before, but before it would stop about halfway and it was hard and you had to push through it. But now the brake pedal works great again. So I think we should be all set. I'm still gonna road test it, and one other thing that I wanted to do too. But yeah, I'm happy. And next one, I think we'll do the exhaust manifold. So if you got a leaky exhaust manifold, it sounds like a rumble from this area, and it'll stink a little bit like fumes. Then we probably have a little exhaust crack, because these manifolds like to crack. So part's about 300 bucks. So if you can do it yourself, save the 4 hours labor. It's definitely not too bad. So I'll show you guys. I usually do the whole thing from the top. So you gotta kind of be good at feeling stuff down and around the corner, but you can get it done. So anyway, stay tuned for that video on this Equinox. I think these videos will do well, because these are super common issues on these cars. So yeah, stay tuned guys.